The old capacitor bank hums, a low-frequency heartbeat against the Liberdade rain. Ozone and stale coffee scent the air, mingling with the phantom smoke of 1,000 late nights. Hand-labeled vinyl stacks lean precariously, monuments to forgotten signals. The salvaged transmitter glows with stubborn arrogance.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Singapore checks in at 82 degrees and patchy rain nearby. Winds are moving from the south at 7 miles per hour.
And using sharp discernment to separate the architectural signal from the toxic residue. Our focus remains on crafting resilient inner and civic spaces rooted in consent, provenance, and dignity.
Exactly. Macron's proposed social media ban for under-15s hit a wall this week, a direct challenge to state digital guardianship. France's top court blocked the measure, citing fundamental rights.
That's a significant block on a major policy initiative, Togee. The Constitutional Council issued its ruling just before the ban was set to take effect, signaling a clear resistance to a blanket prohibition on access.
Indeed. This ruling impacts millions of French children and their families, leaving the question of digital well-being open-ended. The state argued the ban would shield children from harmful content and online exploitation, while the court weighed this against privacy, freedom of expression, and parental responsibility under Article 12 of the French Civil Code.
The court's decision points to the inherent conflict in broad-stroke digital legislation. It's about who defines protection and whether a blanket ban serves the evolving digital identities of young citizens, denying agency in their digital landscape.
This situation highlights the need for a more nuanced approach than outright prohibition. We have to consider the long-term impact on digital literacy and identity formation for those under 15, rather than just erecting a digital fence.
Patching in a caller, the critical thinker. You're on the signal.
This ban, or the block of it, seems like two sides of the same coin. What evidence did Macron have that a ban was necessary? And what evidence suggests blocking it is better? It feels like policy by assumption.
A valid point, critical thinker. The state presented concerns about rising screen addiction and exposure to inappropriate content, citing a 20% increase in cyberbullying reports over the last year. The court, however, focused on the lack of proportionality and the individual rights enshrined in the French Constitution.
It's less about a direct counter-evidence claim and more about the bluntness of the instrument. A ban is a blunt instrument. An alternative path before any next move could involve strengthening digital literacy programs within public schools, using a curriculum developed with youth input. Imagine a national lesson planner module on digital provenance and consent.
Or a voluntary gig passport mesh certification for online platforms, indicating they meet child-friendly design standards, giving parents and children tools to navigate rather than just blocking access.
Precisely. Building resilient architectures means empowering discernment. So, for our next move experiment, let's consider a national initiative, the Digital Navigator Program. It could pair trained mentors with families, using a local signal radar approach to map safe online spaces and teach critical engagement, rather than just erecting a firewall. This centers consent and dignity in their digital lives. Try the Radio Chronicle Challenge at TogeeVision.com/radio challenge.
Agency.
Switching frequencies. Next signal. Ontario free to axe Toronto bike lanes, regions. From France, we pivot to Ontario, where the province just asserted a new level of control over Toronto's street design. This is a direct challenge to municipal autonomy.
The Court of Appeal for Ontario ruled the provincial government can override city decisions on infrastructure, specifically allowing the axing of bike lanes on key arteries like Lakeshore Boulevard West. This impacts thousands of cyclists and pedestrians who relied on these routes for daily commutes and safety, prioritizing vehicular flow over active transportation infrastructure in a city of over 3 million.
This isn't just about asphalt, Togee. It's a provincial hammer falling on local autonomy, a concrete manifestation of top-down power. Imagine the vibrant bike culture of Amsterdam. Then picture a single stroke erasing dedicated pathways, forcing two-wheeled citizens back into aggressive traffic lanes on a route used by over 5,000 cyclists daily.
Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
So the province says efficiency. The city says local choice. Who actually pays the price when a provincial government can just rip out local infrastructure like this? What's the real cost beyond the immediate inconvenience for Toronto residents?
The cost extends to civic trust and shared vision, caller. It's a move that fragments the urban fabric, undermining the very idea of integrated planning for over 2.9 million Toronto residents. An alternative path, before any next move, could involve establishing a joint provincial municipal task force on urban mobility, with a mandate for integrated planning that respects local context while addressing regional transit needs.
Instead of this top-down override, a civic commons charter could be a playable next step. Municipalities in the province would agree to shared jurisdiction principles, with a binding local referendum mechanism for major infrastructure changes affecting active transport, ensuring consent and local dignity are structurally embedded in urban planning decisions.
Somewhere a capacitor creaks under the load. Hot metal. The console keeps its lights and its secrets. Let's shift our gaze from the asphalt to the Australian real estate market, where a tiny step might signal a larger architectural shift. Australia's housing market is seeing a subtle tremor, with lending to property investors dropping sharply.
New data indicates a significant fall in investor lending, a 7.5% year-on-year drop in January, which an expert called a tiny step toward fairer housing. This exposes millions of first-time homebuyers in cities like Sydney and Melbourne to a slightly less competitive market, but doesn't fundamentally alter the landscape for the over 2.5 million Australian households currently renting.
This investor slowdown is less a solution and more a momentary pause in the landlord is king narrative. It's like watching a single brick fall from a towering, impenetrable wall of housing unaffordability, built on generations of speculative investment, leaving the core structure untouched in markets where median house prices exceed $1 million, Aid.
Caller's on. Go ahead.
Okay, so a tiny step isn't really a fix. Who truly benefits from this slowdown in investor loans? And what actual policy shift would make a significant difference for someone trying to buy their first home in Australia or just find affordable rent?
You're right, caller. The benefit is marginal for most, but it exposes the fragility of an investment-centric model. The real architectural signal lies in identifying pathways to systemic change, not just watching market fluctuations. An alternative, before any next move, could be implementing a progressive land value tax across major urban centres, or robust public housing initiatives that directly address supply shortages for low-income earners.
To move beyond tiny steps, let's design a housing dignity fund. Funded by a tiered vacancy tax on empty investment properties, it could directly subsidize cooperative housing projects and provide down payment assistance for essential workers, transforming an extractive model into one that builds provenance and dignity for residents. This puts consent and equitable access at the structural core.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.